So the market continues to do extremely well. Bitcoin's still over 8,100. Despite false articles like this one, the original title of this exact article was actually changed because it was too misleading. The reason that they decided to go with the original title is because they wanted clicks. Obviously, that's how people view and watch different materials on the internet. But basically, the original title was that the ETF was postponed. An ETF was postponed, not the ETF. But a lot of people are making that confusion there. And thankfully, CoinDesk did at least eventually change their title to not be as misleading. Everyone's talking about Bitcoin ETFs in the crypto sphere right now. And obviously, the best way to get a lot of clicks and capitalize on that is to publish an article saying that won't happen, or something to try and ruin the hype on that, even if it's false. And then I also got a lot of comments on the CNBC news piece about the ETFs not necessarily happening this year. I'll talk about why that's a good thing. I also did watch that segment, so I do want to talk about that a little bit. And I also do want to talk a little bit as well about the gold ETF comparison with the crypto ETF. So the first thing I want to jump into then is this article, which, as I said, they did change the title. It was way worse. Some people tweeted this at me, and as well, I've seen some videos about it, and I just want to clarify. So the title is now SEC delays decision on Direxion's Bitcoin ETF until September. I don't know if other crypto channels were talking about Direxion's ETF, but I haven't covered that ETF once in my entire channel ever. So it's kind of irrelevant to this channel, but the reason it was misleading is because it did not originally have this title, and a lot of people assumed that it was the VanEck Solid X ETF, which is what more people are getting excited about. So if you're worried about the ETF, nothing bad has come out yet, and be careful about articles like this that try to clickbait you into something that isn't even true. So I did read the article, and it actually does clarify that it's not even related to the VanEck Solid X article, but it's at the very end, the very last paragraph. So you'd have to read through the entire thing to realize essentially that this is not the ETF that people are excited about. So it's published on CoinDesk by Nicolesh Day. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, has delayed making a decision on whether to approve 5 Bitcoin-related exchange-traded funds, ETFs, until September, public documents reveal on Tuesday. So first of all, one thing I said yesterday as well is that it's very likely that a decision for the SolidX VanEck Bitcoin ETF might not even come until after August, September, or even later. I believe the earliest that they can make a decision is the 16th of August, but it's also likely it could get pushed back a little bit. In my opinion, not really a big deal at all. And then there's this quote from the SEC on why they're postponing their decision over any possible ETF approval filed by Direxion Investments in January, one of which is directly related to Bitcoin's price, and 4 of which are based on the cryptocurrency's price movements. So again, it's not really even relevant to what I've been talking about, or I think what most people have been talking about regarding the ETF. But the SEC is quoted as stating, "The Commission finds it appropriate to designate a longer period within which to issue an order approving or disapproving the proposed rule change so that it has sufficient time to consider this proposed rule change. Accordingly, the Commission designates September 21st, 2018 as the date by which the Commission shall either approve or disapprove the proposed rule change." Again, this is for the Direxion Investments proposed ETF, not the SolidX VanEck ETF. I thought it was funny as well that SEC added that it only received 2 comments on their proposed ETF. At that point, I definitely knew it was nothing to worry about. The VanEck SolidX one that a lot of people have been talking about already have hundreds of comments submitted. And the article even says here the decision may occur as soon as next month. So there might be some videos or articles coming out about this, and I just wanted to try and talk about it as soon as possible so people don't believe the FUD and essentially the lying that's going on in the media, or the misrepresentation at least, to try and misdirect you. And so I did want to cover this briefly. So CNBC has been talking more and more about cryptocurrency. If we just go to their Twitter page, here we have a Bitcoin Coinbase news break just on the price. Then we have another Bitcoin Run tweet here mixed in with some traditional financial stuff. And then we have this Brian Kelly video, which I think a lot of people are talking about. Also, I would recommend watching Alicia Rossani's new video posted just about an hour or 2 ago this morning. It also clarifies this as well. But as you can tell from watching CNBC will literally just report on any news they hear, and their opinions shift about 100 times a day. One of the reasons for this is just that they're a news network, and their goal is to put out content, whether or not it's good or not. And they have many, many hours of the day that they have to put out content. And the only way to do that is essentially keep throwing up stuff, even if it's very low quality. they have to keep kind of throwing up this garbage so that it fills the network. But for the people saying that CNBC is saying that the ETF might not get approved, basically for me that's a good sign. If CNBC is saying that an ETF probably won't get approved, to me that makes it more likely that it will get approved. CNBC is usually off about everything. Always behind, they're always kind of following whatever is most popular at the moment, and that usually is not what ends up happening. In crypto and in other news as well. I've said this before, and a lot of people say this, but CNBC and mainstream media outlets are probably the worst place to get news. They're the most biased, probably also least informed. But yeah, no, I definitely don't think CNBC coming out and saying anything is really validating anything. So yeah, just my opinion. I wouldn't get any news from CNBC or really any mainstream media outlet. So the last thing I wanted to cover as well, I just had this comment on a video last night. It was written by Chester Copperpot. So I know a lot of people are kind of concerned about the ETF being approved and the price potentially mimicking what happened with gold. And there are good or bad reasons for that, I guess. So gold did go on a bull run after ETFs were approved for years and years. But I like this comment. I'll post it on the screen here. It was written by Chester Copperpot. So he says here, gold futures were created in 1973 in order to control volatility and price suppression in the gold market after Nixon broke us free from the Bretton Woods semi-gold-backed dollar. Having said that, gold price still rose to a bubble 7 to 9 years later in 1980. Futures and ETFs are not really a major issue for price unless they are margin trading and highly leveraged, like in the current gold market, where 200 paper ounce contracts exist to every real ounce of physical gold. Great thing is Bitcoin futures are not leveraged much at all, with very little margin trading allowed with relatively little volume. This is very good news for now, but could change. The ETF fine print is not available because it does not exist yet, so I cannot comment on it. So far, the regulators have been light-handed. Let's hope that they stay that way. On the other hand, increased margin trading and increasing the leveraged contracts in Bitcoin will subdue volatility over time, which will be good to advance crypto as a currency and medium of exchange. This is good news overall, but the regulators need to implement this institutional investment and regulation slowly. I did not believe the drop since August was from the futures contract because Bitcoin corrects every December over the last 4 years, but I do believe speculation skyrocketed prices last year in anticipation of futures contracts. Believe me, my representatives will be hearing from me if regulators get too heavy-handed. So yeah, let me know your thoughts about that. I thought that was a pretty good comment. If anybody disagrees or has a critique of that comment, please feel free. So actually, as I was finishing up editing that last video, I saw this post on the cryptocurrency subreddit as well, essentially saying what I was basically saying. It was posted by Arbab Mahmood on the cryptocurrency subreddit. So the title here is that no, ETFs are not getting delayed. The SEC Bitcoin ETF update, the fact versus media manipulation, which was kind of the point I was trying to make in that video. So he's quoted here saying, a news article was recently posted from CoinDesk stating the SEC is delaying the decision on Bitcoin ETFs until September. He's saying here that people went crazy. He also says here the title was later changed to the title we see, which is SEC delays decision on the Direxions Bitcoin ETF, which is not the ETF, frankly, that anyone cares about. The fact this individual says is that the SEC is delaying a different ETF, basically just what I said in the video. The one SEC is postponing was filed by Direxion Investments. It's a different one. There are a lot of investment firms that file for ETF application, which is a good point made by the individual here. There's many more, most likely, than Van Eck and SolidX, but that's the one that people care about. That's the one people are talking about because it's more structured and it's more likely to pass. He also just talks about how there are a ton of comments on the ETF proposal as opposed to what the article said. Again, it was just very misleading. However, it didn't really affect the price at all. Bitcoin's still at about 8,200 at the time of making this video, still doing really nicely. It actually ran up over 8,000 overnight. And surprisingly, actually, as well, Litecoin had a nice bounce, going from about 81 US dollars all the way up to almost 90. It found a little resistance there again, right at that 50-day moving average currently. This blue line, that's where it's at. Litecoin, though, I still think could probably see some movement up in the short term. And if we just take a look at the overall global market cap, almost 300 billion, 298 billion at the time of me making this video. Bitcoin up 6%, more so than all of the top 10 coins except EOS and Bitcoin Cash, go figure. EOS currently at $8.46. Stellar Lumens at almost 30 cents again. Litecoin right around almost $88. If we look at the top gaining coins in the top 100, again, Bitcoin Private killing it for some reason, up almost 20%. Zcash as well, up over 7%. And yeah, I guess to end the video, I just want to get your guys' comments on everything. The comments are overwhelmingly in support of Bitcoin ETF And again, I think whether or not we like it or not, the ETF or an ETF will get approved eventually. So for people worrying about increased manipulation or whatever the case, that's all inevitable. But like I said in yesterday's video, I think it's important to trust the technology behind cryptocurrency, because that's really going to be the only way we can fight the manipulation. The common people have never been able to win against government and to win against manipulation to begin with. And that's one of the good things about cryptocurrency, is it gives people that power, or at least it takes away the power all from one centralized entity. So again, I think it's important to trust in cryptocurrency, because that's why there's such a movement behind it. The reason that the price is going up so much over the past few years, the reason there's so much value and excitement in it, besides the fact you can get a lot of gains, the reason there are gains to be made is because this technology is revolutionary, and because this really does help to take centralization away and to help fight the corruption and manipulation in the government.